I think it must be common for artists to look back at their work and think, I could do that better. At least, I certainly have. Many times. Hello, I'm Robin, with a Y. 5 years ago, I first downloaded Blender, and began my journey as a 3D artist. I initially got Blender just so that I could add CG elements to my live action or stop motion films, but it wouldn't be long before I thought to myself that I could make 3D animated characters. I followed some tutorials by CG Geek to make a basic low poly human and a rig to go with it, but that wasn't enough for me. So I then spent about a day or two turning my basic human into the sensational Spider-Man. Minus the sensational. His head looks like a balloon, and I didn't really know how to rig yet, so the eyes were just booleaned into the head. Yeah, this was rough, even for a complete beginner, but I didn't care at the time. I was just stoked that I could make 3D characters. So I made a little animation. We all have to start somewhere, okay? Over the next 5 years, I'll make various other Spider-Man themed characters and animations, such as a faithful recreation of the PS2 Ultimate Spider-Man cinematics, a Spider-Gwen short, and even my own version in my signature art style. But in all that time, I never once revisited the classic Spider-Man, and I think it's been long enough. Once again, I'll be making this in my art style, and I start by stealing a base mesh from one of my other characters. I clean up some of the geometry to get that simple Spider-Man look, and then spent many hours in edit and sculpt mode adjusting the shape of the mesh. Like many people, I'm a die-hard Spider-Man fan, so everything had to be just right. Once the mesh was done, I started the texturing, and this is where things get really fun. So I start with my basic hearts materials, and to briefly explain how it works, it's essentially a cell shader that's mixing a texture in the highlights and a hash mark pattern in the shadows, and then some other stuff. But for this project, I wanted to do something a little more complicated. I wanted each colour of the suit to also have a different texture, so I used my usual fabric for the blue, this dot pattern for the red, a glossy plastic material for the webs, and a more matted dark grey for the logo. So I have a bunch of textures that I want to mix together. What many of you would probably expect me to do is to draw a black and white matte. So one texture appears where the white is and another appears where the black is. But the problem with that is I'd need at least 3 texture maps to mix all of this together, and that sounds like a pain. So instead, I'm going to use RGB. By painting with the red, green and blue colour channels, I can use this node to separate them into different mattes to mix all my textures together. I can even reuse the same texture to mix all the colours on top. So now that my material is set up, all I had to do was paint one image texture to create the final suit. Simples. Since I'd already set up the complicated bit first, painting the suit was actually really fun, and I could just focus on the design. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel with this character. Just the classic Spider-Man, like what I grew up with. My primary inspiration to this character was the classic suit from the PS4 game, Into the Spider-Verse, and my all-time favourite version, Spectacular Spider-Man. The eyes were painted on a separate plane that is shrink-wrapped to the head. I do this so I can easily redraw and reposition the eyes for animation. I then steal a rig from one of my other characters, give it a quick pose, throw together a background, and my Spider-Man was finished. I think he's pretty cool, but there's still something missing. The original guy did get an animation. I then spent the next 3 days remaking my animation, but I decided to change a couple things. I'm not going to sit and explain my animation process because I'm honestly not that good, and there's a million better videos out there on how to do it. The environment was thrown together using my existing asset library, did some lighting, and it was time to render. I always render my scenes in layers. So I'll render the character, then the empty background, and what other elements I need. I then composite these together in DaVinci Resolve. The reason I do this is so that I can add extra effects and animations that enhance the stylized look of the final shot. I also add lens dirt, because I love lens dirt. Do some colour grading, some sound, and the animation was done. Well, I think I can safely say it's a slight improvement on the original. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can find more like it on my channel, and comment below what you would like to see me make next. Blah.